Have you ever wondered what you'd do if you suddenly lost the person you've shared your life with? Losing a spouse is one of the most painful experiences anyone can face, a moment that brings not just overwhelming grief, but a flood of decisions that can feel impossible to navigate amid that pain. It's all too easy to make choices driven by loneliness, pressure, or desperation. The choices that could lead to regrets, financial strain, or even deeper emotional wounds. That's why you need to watch this video until the end. We're diving into 5 costly mistakes you should never say yes to after losing a spouse, insights that can protect your heart, your future, and your peace of mind during one of life's toughest chapters. Before we begin, I would appreciate it if you like this video. You can help me continue to spread the old age lesson. If you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like this video, please comment number 1. If you don't like it, comment number 0 to let me know so I can make a better video for you. Now let's get started. Number 1. Making big financial decisions too soon. One of the most frequent and potentially damaging mistakes people make after losing a spouse is diving headfirst into significant financial decisions without adequate time to reflect. The sudden absence of a partner often leaves the surviving spouse grappling with a flood of responses. Melodies: managing bank accounts, deciphering insurance policies, overseeing investments, and even contemplating whether to hold on to the family home or sell it. In the wake of such a profound loss, it's only natural to feel an overwhelming urge to act swiftly, as though taking decisive steps might restore a semblance of order or control amidst the chaos of grief. However, this impulse, while understandable, can lead to serious missteps. Grief as a way of fogging the mind, telling clarity and skewing perspective, making it a perilous time to commit to choices that could have lasting, irreversible consequences. When emotions are raw and unpredictable, what feels like a sound decision at the moment may prove sure or detrimental over time. Widows and widowers often find themselves under pressure, sometimes from well-intentioned loved ones, sometimes from financial advisors eager to help, and sometimes from their internal drive to make sweeping changes like selling their home, relocating to a new city, or plunging into large-scale investments. Yet the initial months following a spouse's death or a period of profound emotional upheaval, not an ideal window for bold financial gambles. The wisest course of action during this fragile time is to press pause, allowing yourself the space to mourn and regain equilibrium before locking into decisions that could shape the trajectory of your future. Consider the story of Margaret, a 74-year-old widow who faced this very scenario after her husband's passing. She was inundated with advice from friends and family urging her to downsize her home right away. On the surface, the suggestion seemed practical: fewer rooms to maintain reduced utility bills, and the promise of a fresh start in a new environment. Swept up in the momentum and still reeling from her loss, Margaret acted quickly, selling the house she and her husband had shared for decades and relocating to a modest apartment in a different town within just a few months. But as the fog of grief began to lift, she was hit with a wave of regret. The familiar comforts of her old home, its memories, its neighborhood, its sense of belonging were gone, replaced by an unfamiliar space that felt more isolating than liberating. Looking back, she wished she had given herself more time to weigh her options and let her emotions settle before uprooting her life so drastically. The risks of hasty financial moves extend far beyond real estate. Newly widowed individuals are often prime targets for financial predators and spooky plus individuals or companies who prey on vulnerability, offering dubious investment schemes, are pushing aggressive sales pitches cloaked as opportunities. Even well-meaning but misguided advice from acquaintances can steer someone down a risky path. For example, you might encounter someone pressing you to sign documents, withdraw substantial sums from savings, or so Think money into a can't-miss venture with little time to think it over. In these moments, caution is your best defense. Step back, breathe, and resist the urge to act under duress. Sound financial decisions are rarely born from haste. They require deliberation, research, and a clear head. Another pitfall to avoid is the temptation to distribute money or assets too quickly. Grief can ignite a powerful impulse to give, to support children or grandchildren, donate to a cherished cause, or share with close friends as a way of honoring your spouse's memory or finding purpose. While generosity is admirable, acting on this instinct prematurely can jeopardize your financial security. Down the line, a gift that feels affordable today might strain your resources years from now, especially if unexpected expenses arise or your needs evolve. Before committing to any major disbursements, it's prudent to consult a financial advisor or accountant, someone impartial and knowledgeable who can assess your full financial picture and guide you toward choices that safeguard your long-term well-being. Experts often advocate for what's known as the one-year rule, a guideline suggesting that you refrain from making any monumental, irreversible financial decisions for at least 12 months after losing a spouse. This buffer provides a critical window to navigate the initial shock, process your emotions, and gradually regain the mental clarity needed to evaluate your options objectively. The loss of a spouse is already one of life's most wrenching upheavals. Compounding it with avoidable financial blunders only deepens the strain. Instead of rushing, focus on stabilizing your situation, paying bills, maintaining routine expenses, and gathering information about your assets. Seek out a trusted professional to lean on, whether it's a financial planner, attorney, or tax expert, and remind yourself that there's no deadline looming over you. The most enduring and beneficial decisions emerged from patience and perspective, not from the haze of grief. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Word number 2, isolating yourself from friends and family. In the aftermath of losing a spouse, the instinct to retreat into solitude can feel almost irresistible. Grief is an intensely personal experience, and there are moments when being alone seems like the only way to wrestle with the depth of your pain without the burden of explanation or expectation. While carving out time for yourself as a healthy and necessary part of mourning, completely severing ties with friends and family can pave the way for a far more isolating and prolonged struggle, one that hinders healing rather than fostering it. It's easy to slip into a pattern of withdrawal, convincing yourself that you simply need a little more time to sort through your emotions. But what begins as a temporary respite can harden into a habit that's tough to shake. Human beings are wired for connection, and this need becomes even more pronounced during times of loss. When you isolate yourself for too long, the loneliness can deepen, amplifying feelings of sadness, anxiety, and even despair. Beyond the emotional toll, the research underscores the physical consequences of prolonged isolation: weakened immune function, elevated blood pressure, disrupted sleep patterns, and in extreme cases, a shortened lifespan. Conversely, maintaining even modest ties with others can lighten the load of grief, offering glimmers of support and reminding you that you don't have to bear the weight alone. Take the example of Walter, a 78-year-old man who lost his wife of 52 years in the months following her death. He pulled away from everyone, ignoring phone calls, declining invitations to family events, and rarely venturing beyond his front door. He told himself he wasn't ready to face the world, that no one could grasp the enormity of sorrow, and that solitude was simpler than pretending to be okay. But as weeks turned into months, Walter didn't feel better. He felt worse. His days bled into one another, marked by lethargy, a dwindling appetite, and a growing sense of disconnection. It wasn't until a persistent neighbor coaxed him over for a cup of coffee that a crack appeared in his isolation. That single interaction blossomed into a weekly ritual, then a tentative re-entry into social circles with old friends. Gradually Walter found that being around others didn't erase his grief, but made it more bearable, not because the pain vanished, but because he no longer felt like he was carrying it in total solitude. The goal isn't to thrust yourself in a crowded gatherings or feign cheerfulness when you're not ready. Rather, it's about taking small, manageable steps to stay tethered to the world around you. Answer a text from a friend, agree to a brief walk with a sibling, or sit in on a low-pressure coffee chat. If talking feels too daunting, that's fine. Sometimes just being in the presence of others or their chatter without needing to contribute can serve as a quiet lifeline for those who find in-person interaction overwhelming. Even a virtual check-in with a loved one or a message in a support group chat can keep the door to connection ajar. A related misstep is pushing away the very people who care about you most. Grief can breed irritability, exhaustion, or a nagging sense that others simply don't get it, tempting you to shut them out entirely. Friends and family may indeed stumble in their attempts to comfort you, offering cliched platitudes or awkward silences instead of the perfect response, but their intent is often rooted in love, and their presence, however imperfect, can still provide solace. Rather than building walls, consider letting them, and gradually, even if it's just to sit with you in silence. Over time, these small openings can forge a bridge back to the support network you'll need as you heal. For many, connecting with those who walked a similar path can be especially grounding. Grief support groups, community meetups, or online forums offer a space to share your story with people who truly understand the nuances of losing a spouse. Hearing their experiences can normalize your own, easing the isolation and affirming that your feelings, however messy, are valid. There's no universal timeline for grief, no one-size-fits-all roadmap to recovery, but walling yourself off into it only steepens the climb. By inching toward others at a pace that feels right for you, you'll find flickers of strength, unexpected comfort, and a reminder that you're not alone on this journey. Your loved ones, whether they're family, friends, or newfound allies, want to stand by you. Let them, even just a little, and you might discover that shared burden odds are easier to bear. Number 3. Ignoring your health and well-being. When a spouse passes away, the overwhelming weight of grief can completely overshadow everything else in life, including your health. For many, the emotional pain becomes so all-consuming that taking care of themselves feels unimportant, inconvenient, or even impossible. Doctor's appointments get postponed indefinitely, meals or skipped or replaced with whatever is quickest, and daily routines like exercise or proper sleep fall by the wayside. Some people even wrestle with a subtle sense of guilt, as though focusing on their well-being somehow dishonored the memory of their loved one, or suggests their grief isn't deep enough. But here's the truth: neglecting your health doesn't bring your spouse back or prove the intensity of your love. It only makes an already difficult journey even harder. Grief doesn't just live in your heart, it takes a very real toll on your body. Research has shown that losing a spouse can increase your risk of serious health issues such as heart disease, high blood pressure, and a weakened immune system. The stress hormones flooding your system during grief can disrupt sleep patterns, suppress appetite, or trigger overeating, sometimes leading to significant weight loss or gain. Studies have even linked prolonged grief to cognitive decline, with some people experiencing memory lapses or difficulty concentrating in the months or years that follow such a loss. Physically, the effects can creep up slowly, but hit hard. For example, someone might lose interest in cooking and start relying on processed snacks or fast food, not realizing how much it's draining their energy until they're too fatigued to get through the day. Others might turn to alcohol or sweets for comfort, only to find their mood and health spiraling further downward over time. Mentally, the isolation and exhaustion of grief can deepen into depression or anxiety, leaving you feeling disconnected from the world and yourself. Consider the story of James, an 81-year-old widower whose wife passed away after 55 years of marriage. In the months that followed, James stopped cooking the hearty meals they used to share. He'd tell himself he wasn't hungry, or that it wasn't worth the effort for just one person. When he did eat, it was often a microwave dinner or a handful of crackers, quick, easy, and devoid of nutrition. Within a few months, he noticed he was weaker, struggled to climb stairs, and couldn't sleep through the night. His constant fatigue made it hard or to face the waves of grief that hit him daily. It wasn't until his daughter stepped in that things began to shift. She didn't force him to cook elaborate meals, but encouraged small, manageable changes: a bowl of oatmeal in the morning, a piece of fruit with lunch, and a simple chicken and vegetable dish for dinner. She also reminded him to drink water, something he all but forgotten. Over time, James was surprised to find his energy returning, his sleep improving, and his ability to cope with his emotions growing stronger. It wasn't a cure for his grief, but it gave him a foundation to keep going. Self-care isn't just about food, it's a broader commitment to your physical, mental, and emotional health. Exercise often falls away after losing a spouse, not because people don't care about staying active, but because the motivation or companionship they once relied on has gone. Yet studies consistently show that even light physical activity, like a 20-minute walk around the neighborhood, can lower stress hormones, boost endorphins, and improve overall mood. Good for some, joining a local walking group, Tai Chi class, or gentle yoga session offers a dual benefit: movement for the body and connection for the soul. Even if it feels daunting at first, starting small can lead to lasting improvements in both health and outlook. Then there's the issue of medical care. Many widows and widowers let routine checkups slide, either because they're too overwhelmed to schedule them, or because they convince themselves nothing's urgent. But grief amplifies the importance of staying proactive about your health. A visit to the doctor can catch early warning signs like rising cholesterol or blood pressure that might otherwise go unnoticed. If you're managing chronic conditions like diabetes or arthritis, keeping up with medications and appointments is even more critical. When your body is under the strain of loss, think of it as an investment. A little effort now can prevent bigger problems later, giving you the strength to face both the present and the future. Mental health deserves equal attention. Grief can open the door to depression, anger, or pervasive sense of hopelessness, especially if you're spending long stretches alone. There's no shame in admitting it's too much to handle solo. Reaching out as a sign of resilience, not weakness. A licensed counselor can offer tools to navigate your emotions, while a grief support group can connect you with others who truly understand. Either a heartfelt conversation with a close friend or family member can lighten the load. The key is to recognize when you need support and take that first step, no matter how small. Ultimately, your spouse would have wanted you to thrive, not just survive. Caring for yourself isn't a betrayal of their memory, it's a way to honor the life you shared by ensuring you're still here to carry it forward. Grief will ebb and flow, and there's no rushing it, but amidst the pain, your health remains a priority. You're still living, and that life is worth safeguarding with small intentional acts of care. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now, let's move forward. Number 4, rushing into a new relationship. The death of a spouse leaves behind an aching voice. Coda silence. Where there was once laughter, a space where there was once partnership. For many, the loneliness that settles in is one of the most unbearable parts of grief, a constant reminder of what's been lost. It's natural to crave connection, to long for someone to fill the emptiness with conversation, companionship, or comfort. But one of the most common and pitfalls widows and widowers face is leaping into a new relationship before they've had time to fully process their loss. While the desire for love isn't wrong, moving too quickly can lead to unintended consequences. More pain, confusion, or regret down the road. Grief is a complex, unpredictable journey, and it doesn't adhere to a universal schedule. Some people need years to feel steady again, while others might feel a flicker of readiness sooner. But when emotions are still raw, it's easy to misjudge what you're truly seeking. Many don't realize they're chasing a new relationship, not out of genuine readiness, but out of a desperate need to escape the loneliness, numb the pain, or recreate what they've lost. These relationships often start with a rush of intensity, someone new to talk to share a meal with, to quiet the deafening silence, but they can falter when built on shaky emotional ground. Take Bar Cobra, a 72-year-old woman who lost her husband of nearly 5 decades just 4 months after his passing. She met a kind man through a mutual friend and quickly found herself in a whirlwind romance. At first it felt like a lifeline, someone to call at the end of the day, to sit with during the long evening she'd come to dread. But as the months passed, as cracks appeared, the relationship escalated faster than she'd anticipated. Talk of moving in together came up within weeks, and she began to feel overwhelmed, even trapped. She hadn't had time to grieve, to sit with her memories, or to rediscover who she was without her husband. Eventually she ended the relationship, but the experience, after wishing she'd given herself more space to heal before diving in a healthy relationship, should grow for mutual connection and strength, not just a need for emotional rescue. After decades with a spouse, your identity, habits, and routines are deeply intertwined with theirs. Jumping into something new too soon can stir up complicated feelings. Guilt for moving on, frustration when a new partner doesn't measure up to the past, or confusion about what you even want. Some widows and widowers find themselves caught in an emotional tug-of-war. Part of them yearns to embrace the future, while another part feels tethered to the love they've lost. These are normal human responses, but they need time and reflection to untangle before you can offer your heart fully to someone else. There's also a practical risk.